Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jose Ribau. I head up the digital innovation team at Cadillac Fairview, and we're a very proud partner in the Canada United effort, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. And I have the pleasure of being joined today by Mike Dobbins and Rocco Rossi, who I will introduce in a moment. But for those of you who don't know, Canada United is a strong effort that a number of brands have come together to support this year to help our small businesses, local businesses support each other and stabilize during the pandemic, as well as being set up with the right programming and support to help them succeed moving forward. So without further ado, first I'd like to introduce our guests. Rocco Rossi is the CEO and president of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and is also an active cyclist and volunteer in the community. Among his many accomplishments, he's actually climbed to the base of Everest. So Rocco, thank you for joining us.
A great pleasure, Jose, and a big shout out to Cadillac Fairview and by extension, your tenants for joining the Canada United movement.
Thanks so much, Rocco. Pleasure to have you, and thank you for those comments. Mike Dobbins, he's the Chief Strategy and Corporate Development Officer at RBC. He's a seasoned banking executive across North America over the last couple of decades and a great supporter of Right to Play, as well as Canada United. Mike, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. And I'll echo Rocco's point. Thank you so much for your partnership in Cadillac Fairview and in Canada United.
Well, Mike, listen, we've had the pleasure of getting to know each other over the last couple of years in particular, given the nature of our roles. Why don't we start with you, and why don't you tell us a little bit about your role at RBC, how you got to be involved in Canada United, and why you feel this is such an important movement right now for our businesses across Canada.
Yeah, thank you. In addition to running strategy and corporate development, about 3 years ago, I founded a group within RBC called RBC Ventures. And this group is really focused on finding new solutions beyond banking that can help support all Canadians, businesses and consumers. And to date, across many vectors, one of which is small business, we've created about 20 solutions. And so, the way we got involved in Canada United, really shortly after the crisis and with social distancing and some of the restrictions, we really dove into what is the challenge going to be for small businesses. We surveyed thousands of our own businesses to really help shape a perspective, which led to getting a lot of like-minded, bigger brands, folks like yourself, folks like Rocco, to come together and say, in addition to things we can all individually do, to support businesses, and I know all of us and many others have, we started talking about this idea of unity of purpose. What if many of the big brands came together and in one voice, really talked about the importance of small business, local business, Canadian businesses, not just to our economy, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute, but to the very, fabric of who we are. Every main street we walk down, the experiences, just the cultural impact, and they're just so vital that making sure they know they have the support of all Canadians with our purchasing power, with our goodwill, just seem like a really important thing to do.
Well, you mentioned that element of who we are and unity of purpose. I can tell you that this is very consistent with obviously RBC's support of the Olympics and other things that you've done over the years. I couldn't agree more, especially on this notion of being proud of our local businesses and doing what we can to support them. And it sometimes feels a bit un-Canadian to do what you're trying to do. And I'm really happy to see that we're taking a step forward because our businesses certainly do need the help. And Rocco, I think you're, probably closer than many of us on the ground with the number of businesses across Ontario. What can you tell us about how receptive they are to this kind of support, building on what Mike just said?
Well, it's really a remarkable coming together, as Mike has stated, over 50 iconic large brands who recognize that small business is critical to the economy and to our communities, whether it's in a mall or on Main Street. It's small businesses that create the majority of new jobs. Your first job it tends to be the place where you go to celebrate a special occasion. They're the people who are always there to support the local hockey teams or local charities, and they've really taken it in the teeth in this crisis because we put the economy into a medically induced coma to very rightfully deal with a public health challenge. And unlike the so-called Great Recession of 2008, 2009, which was more a financial crisis that affected Bay Street, this recession has really affected Main Street and small business that have lost jobs and lost revenues at twice the rate that they did in 2008, 2009. So having all of these brands coming together and saying, we're going to rally to show locals some love the way they do to us and our communities each and every day. And over and above, encouraging people to shop local, dine local, visit local, celebrate local. Every time someone shares a local business story on social media with hashtag Canada United, RBC and the partners are kicking in 5 cents to a fund that is then going to generate up to $5,000 grants for small businesses to help them with PPE expenses, with restructuring their operations to encourage physical distance, et cetera, or to help them upgrade their digital capacity. So it's not just a marketing campaign. It also is there to generate real concrete help to those small businesses.
So, Rocco, I think you mentioned a few different things that, if we could unpack a couple of them, Mike, in terms of losing jobs and the economic contribution of these businesses. I mean, the banks, in particular RBC, given your role in trying to support this segment, what can you tell us about some of the potential risks and the economic powerhouse that is the small business and local business, once some of the, supporting funding from the government kind of runs out? Are those the types of things that RBC is in particular watching and therefore wanted to get ahead of, and in terms of their contribution to the economy and some of the things Rock was getting at?
Yeah, so we, like many other financial institutions, have put relief programs in place, deferment programs and things like that. We've launched, internal initiatives using our points programs to try to be incrementally stimulative. But small business is a powerhouse, right? It's 40+% of GDP. It's an enormous portion of the employment base within the country, and it's just incredibly connected to the ecosystem that is Canada. And so, with all the support programs, and I think as Rocco alluded to, what consumers do, how they choose to shop, can make a big difference for small business. And we're trying to highlight that it takes the entire country. Sure, government programs and yes, corporate programs like ours, but the Canadian consumer has an enormous impact on how this all goes. And so we want to raise that profile. I mean, there's a lot of great global, huge places you can go to get certain things, but there's also, a million small businesses that you could be doing similar things and help preserve that part of the economy. And as I said earlier, I don't think it's just an economic issue. I think it's a cultural issue. I mean, I live downtown Toronto. I walk down Yonge Street. I walk down the Danforth. It is part of our culture.
And on that basis, Mike, and I'll go back to you and then over to Rocco in a minute with the same question. But one could say, well, there's been a number of marketing programs, to support small business. We see, a number of other agencies trying to do the same. What in your mind makes Canada United different?
I'd say a few things. One is the unity of purpose. Every Chamber of Commerce in the country, the Retail Council of Canada, the CFIB, Restaurants Canada, as Rocco said, 60-ish iconic brands, all with one voice to their constituents and to the public through a very, very large media program, asking people to take micro actions, to go online, and every time they do, we're going to make a contribution to a fund. That we hope will support, many, many businesses. So it's viral in nature. It's not just, advertising. It's a very large group of influential, Canadian concerns, really trying to get a very specific singular message out there that will also raise money. And at some point in this conversation, Rocco, maybe we'll unveil what we were planning on doing on the last on Canada United weekend.
Absolutely. Save the sizzle for
I'm
afterwards.
gonna save this. I'm gonna save the sizzle because we should have a conversation about, so what's the idea of the weekend?
Absolutely. So with that, Rocco, before we get to that final piece, from your perspective, and I think you've alluded to some of this earlier, but what makes this one different? And I can personally attest to your very active daily updates. Whether it's the wedding hall, banquet hall, local bakery, local bike shop. What do you think is different about Canada United, and compared to other programs that perhaps you've seen pre-pandemic?
And it's not just pre-pandemic, but currently there are tons of shop local campaigns right across the country, and the Chamber being in every community in the country, we've been approached and we've launched some of our own. But it's the poet once said, "A rose by any other name would still smell as sweet." Not really. This is enormous scale, unlike any other program currently or before on the shop local front, because of the numbers of major companies involved, because of the number of media companies, all of the post media papers, the Toronto Star, Chorus, the work and the buy that RBC is doing, the promotion from Cadillac Fairview in your malls. I mean, everything else pales in comparison, and that's why we've been able to bring on now dozens of city councils across the country and premiers of Ontario, Yukon, elsewhere, endorsing, supporting the campaign, and even in the case of a few dozen cities already officially proclaiming the final weekend in August as Canada United weekend. Nothing else compares to that, and that's why we were so excited at the opportunity and delighted to partner with RBC, with CF, and everyone else.
Fantastic. So let's go for close on that. And Mike, maybe we can start with you. So let's talk about the weekend. Let's talk about this final push. And maybe you can start talking a little bit about what people can expect. And then Rocco, obviously, from a business perspective, what tools are available. So Mike, let's start with you. And tell us a little bit about what people can expect leading up to that weekend.
Absolutely. So, the first thing we wanted to do is create massive awareness and make Canada United, synonymous with supporting local. And so that's been, really our effort over the last month. We are now pivoting to what we want to be not just a finale weekend for this particular campaign, but hopefully something that lives on and can come back annually to remind us. No different than Black Friday reminds us. It's a shopping and there's deals. In this case with Canada United, we want people to know that this is the weekend that thousands of businesses will do something interesting or special, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and that we want consumers, whether it's online or physically, to show those businesses that they matter and vote with their wallet. And so as part of that, you're going to see the messaging of the campaign shift to the 28th to the 30th of August, which is the weekend. And I know a number of people are doing interesting things, each participant or partner, as well as the many small businesses, which we're going to begin activating, over the course of the next day or so through the chambers and others. And so, for example, RBC will be giving customers 25% more points when they shop or dine local over that weekend. We're confident that other partners will do some interesting things. And then for all Canadians, Canada United will have a sweepstakes component, which is during that weekend, we will give away $25,000, $10,000 prizes just for shopping local. And so we're going to turn up the volume. We're going to extend the reach. And we hope all Canadians will join us. And we hope this will be a permanent reminder of the importance of local in the choices that we make.
Fantastic. Rocco, let's add to that. Talk a little bit about, what tools are available, how some of these businesses, as they hear more, can take advantage of this program and promote. So over to you.
Well, I encourage everybody to go to gocanadaunited.ca, phenomenal website that has a lot of information about the program. And there's a special section for businesses with online tools that they can download, print off, tent cards, posters. Very shortly, in every RBC branch across the country will be actual physical decals that we encourage small businesses to go to their local branch, get and put up in their stores ahead of the weekend. We've been hearing the reports from governments and the deficits that are being created and the amount of money behind the programs. The only sustainable way economically that we're going to get out of this crisis and grow again and pay down all of these debts is for cash registers in small, medium, and large businesses across Canada to start ringing. And so to Mike's point earlier, the Canadian consumer has this enormous power. And yes, we've got to do it safely. Yes, we've got to do it appropriately, because until there is a vaccine, there is no zero risk way to reopen the economy. So we have to be responsible, and businesses are doing their utmost. But we can all collectively, with this unity of purpose that Mike speaks about, really make a difference in the lives of our neighbors and in our own lives. Because if we lose those businesses in our malls, in our main streets, it's going to be that much harder to bring it all back and to revivify the community that Mike speaks about in Toronto on Yonge Street, on the Danforth, but in main streets and malls across this country.
Yeah, and I may add one last thought here on this, on why the campaign and the weekend. As large businesses, we have more capacity. What we've really done here is we've given, and if you go to the gocanadaunited.ca website, what we've done is we've basically created a multi-million-dollar brand campaign that every business can turn into their own. So if McSorley's on Bayview wants to leverage the weekend event and put a special item on their menu, it can also say, dine at McSorley's between the 28th and the 30th. We have some great special items, and you'll have a chance to win, one of $25,000, $10,000 prizes. So every business has an opportunity to leverage a significant set of digital and physical assets on gocanadaunited.ca and make it their own. That's the whole idea, is they can all make it their own. And they, and if you think about each business of that size having a multi-million-dollar campaign, which is kind of how I think about it, then that's just really cool.
I think, Mike, to build on that, we're going to do our part, at CF to promote that local aspect of the business community, make sure our retailers who clearly were going through a recovery, they need every little bit of help they can get. So we're also introducing, in addition to the sweepstakes you've mentioned, CF will also be for that weekend. If that shopping does happen to occur within a Cadillac Fairview property, we'll also be giving away 50 shopping spree prizes of $5,000 each as well. Building out inspiration walls at Toronto Eaton Centre so that people can come and share their stories and truly show locals some love as well. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for both Canadians on the consumer side as well as businesses to take advantage of the momentum that yourselves and other partners like CF and our counterparts have brought to the table in other industries to try and bring this all together. And I'm really excited to participate as well. We'll be doing our part, and definitely encourage anyone listening who is involved in retail to take advantage of these multi-million-dollar campaigns that Mike's referring to in Rocco. So first of all, I just want to thank you all for joining me and participating, and for your leadership in taking this initiative, which, for those of us who have been involved can certainly attest to how difficult it is to bring so many brands together. So I want to thank you for doing so and fighting the good fight. Any closing remarks, Rocco, before I do the same with Mike?
Again, just thanks to all of the partners for their support and understanding how important small businesses are, and to all of the small businesses out there. This is truly a campaign where the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it, because you are leveraging this incredible machine and incredible opportunity. And let's do it up big for small on the final weekend of August.
And maybe I'll just close with a comment to everyone, not the businesses, which is, as Rocco has shown us through his social postings, when you think back at all your favorite memories, the first date, the where you asked a partner to become a life partner, where you take the kids. When I think through my memory bank, so many of them happened at a small business. Whether it's a local franchise owner or an individual concept, and that's the personal side of this. But they need us, and this is historic what's happened, and so it's going to take historic responses to make sure that they're there for our kids and their kids and forever.
Great way to close, Mike and Rocco. Thank you both for joining us today, and I look forward to working with you on this initiative. Go Canada United.
Thanks a lot, Jose, and thanks so much for everything Cadillac Fairview is doing.
Our pleasure.